Good morning, campers. Welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood, a Percy Jackson read-along podcast. I am your host, Zack.
And I'm B.
And this week, we read the final chapter of Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. Chapter 20, The Fleece Works Its Magic Too Well.
Too well.
Oh, no.
Ominous.
That's super scary. What does it mean by it worked too well? Oh, well, I guess you guys will have to find out, won't you?
Kind of how the whole chapter ends. The whole book ends on this line. What did the Fleece do other than fix the barrier at Camp Half-Blood?
Did it give Percy a new car?
What if he just turned into a mermaid? Like, it just, for some reason, like, it worked too well, and then he became his final form, which is a merman person. For some reason, again, we're cycling back to 13th year, which I think is a joke we've made many a time on this show.
Oh, no, it worked too well. It's going to be like the dome from Stephen King, where just a gigantic dome just falls. And it's just like, oh well, guys, that's the end of the story.
Yeah, that would be pretty dark if, like, it meant that, I think I maybe guessed this last episode that, like, if it worked too well, like, maybe the barrier would be so strong that no one could get out. But, like, that, I don't think that would be a very interesting plot twist, necessarily.
Well, that would make not that much sense, because it's like those things were only monsters, but I guess it'd be like the thing. Actually, yeah, I can see that kind of happening, kind of like only Percy, Annabeth, and Grover are the only ones that are able to get out in time before everyone's stuck, and they just, like, watch them slowly starve to death.
Wow, that's dark. Well, they have strawberries. They could eat the strawberries.
The strawberries on the other side of the barrier. That would make for a more interesting story a little bit, because, like, you have a book that ends and then immediately the next book picks up, like, 2 minutes after that book. But I like how this book ends, because to a kid, this is, like, the perfect twist.
I kind of saw it coming, but, you know.
The way they kept emphasizing Thalia's tree. Oh, don't forget about Thalia's tree. It's dying. What would Thalia think? Oh, my God.
Yeah, and you learn, like, some backstory stuff about her and about the Cyclops and, like, the whole thing with Annabeth. And, like, we learn a lot about her in this book, and we keep referring to her all the time, so it's, like, not that surprising. At first, when they're like, oh, something happened to Annabeth, I just kind of took it at face value, like, oh, I guess something happened to Annabeth. But as soon as they were like, oh, it's another girl, I knew who it was. Even, like, way earlier in the book, I assumed that we were going to meet Talia eventually because of how much they were talking about her, basically. Like, there's just something about the way that they spoke of her character that it didn't just seem like she was an important character from the past who now we have no access to. We also are going to, like, actually meet her and see what her personality is.
We also have that part on the Princess Andromeda where Luke's like, you wouldn't know anything about Thalia. Like, she would be on my side. No, she'd be on our side. Like, here we go. This is like, we have the moral dilemma of what side Thalia would have picked. And now we have that opportunity. I guess we've just spoiled this entire end of this book. But,
I mean, well, it's not too much of a spoiler, but, I mean, yeah. That is sort of interesting, because you think about how even now people fight all the time about, like, ideologically, like, oh, would George Washington agree with the way the country is run today? Like, you know, just people argue about what dead people would have thought, and it's such a weird twist in some ways to, like, have this ideological argument and then go, actually, the dead person is now alive, we could ask them ourselves.
Yeah, I don't really care all that much. I'm kind of feeling a little sick. I need my leeching for today.
That's true, right? Yeah, I mean, like, that's sort of like that tweet where it's like, I don't care if George Washington would have liked our country the way it is now. He owned slaves and, like, probably used leeches to, like, cure his dysentery. Like, well, actually, no, they were beyond that point, I think, when he was alive. Well, some people were using some weird stuff back then.
It was still, you're trying to get rid of the humors?
Yeah, right. Yeah, can you name all the humors, Zach? I can.
No, I just know that one of them's like bile.
Yeah, there's yellow bile, black bile, blood, and phlegm. Those are the 4 humors. As we learn on Sawbones, a great medical podcast.
I haven't read a ye olde medical textbook in years.
Yeah.
Not since the 1800s.
Yeah, you're not reading anything from Pliny the Elder?
No, I'm not.
Anyway.
Yeah, let's get into this chapter, because I find there's interesting debates when it comes to, like, what would you call it? The suspended animation theory of just, like, how much do you tell a person when they've been dead for a couple of years?
Do you want to just kind of do a rundown of, like, how we get to this conclusion?
Yeah, let's do that right now. So the chapter opens up, And Percy is like on top of the world, like he's just high on life.
Yeah, the happiest afternoon he'd ever spent at camp was the way he described it. So everything's kind of, not everything is fixed. He knows that Luke is sort of waiting in the wings and he's trying to bring back Kronos still. And there's that whole thing of him trying to recruit more people to his side. But as far as like immediate safety, he has Tyson, he has Annabeth, he has Grover, he has Chiron. They're all behind the barrier at Camp Half-Blood. They fix the tree. So a lot of stuff is going their way. And then all of a sudden, not so much.
So there's actually like a really great quote. It's actually in the beginning of this chapter. That afternoon was the happiest I'd ever spent at camp, which maybe goes to show you never know when your world's about to be rocked to pieces.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, this is used a lot, narratively speaking, in a lot of stories where you have the hero triumph in some way, and then just at that moment, something crazy happens. And I mean, we even have the foreshadowing, and it's not even really foreshadowing, it's just kind of like overt telling you what's about to happen because of the whole thing with Poseidon sending the letter to Percy saying, what, brace yourself? So
yeah, brace yourself.
Yeah, we knew something was about to happen.
And I mean, when I'm thinking about this, the first thought I've thought of with this is kind of like when people like they have like they're really happy and then all of a sudden they get like manic depressant. It's like almost the same thing. There's like highs and lows in people's lives, and that's kind of like the same thing here with having Percy's like he's on the top of the world, then all of a sudden like a very small thing changes, and then it's just like a poop storm happens.
Well, it's also like not even necessarily negative because they're trying to kind of be coy about what the thing is that happens, and it is kind of earth-shattering, right? The description is a world is about to be rocked to pieces. That's like it's like a vague description. It means big change, but it doesn't necessarily mean bad because it is like this ambiguous thing having Talia come back. So that's kind of the way they talk about it.
And also it's like the last chapter ends on non-cliffhanger. It's just like everything's normal except
this other thing, this monkey wrench is thrown into the works.
Which is very, as a storytelling standpoint, it's a very effective tool because if you want to end your book like this, that is how you end your book. It was just like a hard like fade to black.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, well, now I want to see how she's going to interact with them. And then I'm like, it really made me look forward to the next book, even though that it's not necessarily like a cliffhanger. It's not like they don't tell you who the girl is. You know already. You know for a while, probably, if you're paying attention to these books. But it's more like, oh no, now she's here. We have to reckon with the consequences of her being here. You want to go and see that in the next book.
And the most important thing about it is don't underestimate Kronos, because this was all part of the plan to begin with. This was the plan, which I think is so good because you go through one thing and then you're kind of guided on this journey and you suddenly, it's almost like a magician doing sleight of hand. Like you think you know what's going to happen, but then all of a sudden Kronos pulls a rabbit out of his hat, even though he didn't have a hat on to begin with.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like he tricked them into doing exactly what he needed to have done. Like the whole point was he didn't care about the tree. He didn't care about killing the tree and then making Camp Half-Blood vulnerable to monsters.
No, that would have been like either way he came out like as a win-win. Like if they failed, the tree would have been shattered, but he succeeded and now he's playing right into the prophecy. Like it's the same thing. Again, the old rules are applying. Like he's manipulating the prophecy. Now he's adding more cards to the deck. So in case something were to happen, if he had to kill Percy, now you have Thalia. Or vice versa.
It's also like a genius plan, really, when you think about it, because it's like you said, like it's a lose-lose situation for Percy. Either they didn't get the fleas, and then Talia's tree dies, and then they're just completely vulnerable to monsters, and then who knows what would have happened to Camp Half-Blood, who knows what would have happened to Chiron if, like, they didn't sort of free his name as far as who's the person who killed the tree. Like, there's a lot of things that were going terribly at Camp Half-Blood, and then just when they thought, oh, we did everything correctly, that perfectly plays into this backup plan, or maybe even the main plan all along that Kronos had, which was to, reanimate, I guess, Talia, which is kind of a weird thing, because she was like, there wasn't really even a body there. She was the tree. Like, I don't exactly know how that works exactly, but she appears near the tree.
Well, it's like the same thing of like, okay, I wanted to be like really nerdy right now. In Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, a lot of the plot of that movie is the idea of the no-win scenario. And like, you could do everything right but still lose. And it's kind of the same thing here. It's like, this is a no-win scenario.
I mean, it's not... The thing is, it's also ambiguous, like I said, because Talia is sort of a tool at this point for either side. Like, if they don't know exactly what she's gonna think about this whole thing with Luke and with Kronos and with the rest of Camp Half-Blood, and the whole idea is that they have this... That Kronos has this confidence, and Luke has this confidence that Talia would have taken his side, and then they would have had someone powerful to help them with the prophecy and help them fight against the rest of the, like, Camp Half-Blood and fight against the rest of the gods. But I'm skeptical that she's immediately going to join his side. Like, she seems like sort of a, I mean, the way that they described her, she was a sort of a free thinker, I guess. Like, she went her own way when it came to certain things. So she's inherently unpredictable.
Now, one of the descriptions they give to her is pretty much she has like a mixture of like punk and goth clothing. Maybe that might have to come into play. It's like, oh, she's going to be rebellious, and she's a little older than Annabeth, and all these things. And it's really unique to have the situation, as we'll maybe find out in the next book a little more about Thalia and kind of like what makes her tick. And it's really interesting because now that you have two of the big three, which is, again, it's the nice dynamic of, is going to be like how they have like the weird thing of like tributes of like the parents go passed down to like the kids. Will Thalia be like Zeus in like her personality, much as like how Clarice is like Ares in some of the personality that she has.
Right,
it's gonna be like a really unique thing to see. And I love that they just ended out on a cliffhanger like that. She just says, I'm Thalia, daughter of Zeus.
Yeah, and then the whole daughter of Zeus thing also obviously contributes to her dynamic possibly with Percy, because he's the son of Poseidon, so they have like their own weird thing, again, that we've talked about a million times, about how different cabins have like animosity towards other cabins just based off of like weird godly things that don't really have anything to do with them personally. So like now we're like, oh,
well, it's just past history. It's kind of like, was it the Hatfields and the McCoys almost? And it's just like they've had like a dispute, but no one even knows why it started.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's this, yeah, it's a grudge that no one even knows what it's about. Exactly. So that's kind of the situation here, where Percy also doesn't know if she's going to be like, oh, you're the son of Poseidon, well, you're inherently my enemy. That's like something that could happen, but we literally don't know. And that's like what makes the ending sort of a cliffhanger, even though they tell you who it is.
So it's like the equivalent of like the Lord of the Rings and the Fellowship of the Ring, where at the end of that book, you know, Frodo and Sam like split off, and you know that's their main quest, is to destroy the ring. Then you have like the other group, you have like Aragorn, you have like a bunch of like Legolas and all those people doing their own thing. It's the exact same like kind of split that you should have.
You can tell that this is the second book in a series, I think, because it's definitely building up to something bigger, and where this chapter ends kind of leaves that very much up to interpretation as to what's going to happen. Like, we know that a lot of things are in the works. We know that it's not like this book ended with like even an ambiguous triumph, even before we saw that Talia was reanimated, because before that we knew that Luke was still out there and that Kronos was still going to be brought back to life, hopefully not as fast as he would have if they did have the Fleece, but still, that's something happening.
Yeah, it's the idea, again, it's the idea of the no-win scenario. Like, if they lost, they would have either lost a tree, Thalia got reanimated, or Kronos would have gotten the Golden Fleece, and then, you know, he'd have been quicker to be reanimated. Like, that is a very smart thing. Again, it's the idea of, like, time is the enemy. If they had more time to think about and formulate their plans, maybe they would have realized it. I mean, Luke did accidentally tip them off. Like, he's like, I was going to give you the Fleece anyways. So what that would have meant was Kronos would have been reanimated, but then they would have given the Fleece back to Percy to reanimate Thalia. So then, you know, they can manipulate the prophecy once again. So no matter what they did in these situations, they failed. Or maybe they triumphed. Maybe, you know, it's like one of those things of like throwing the hat in the ring.
A lot of stuff actually happens in this chapter as far as like dynamics, because you feel like everything's sort of wrapping up a little bit, other than the Luke thing, because we have all of these characters back together, plus Tyson, and they're all getting along. But then it's sort of like Grover says, oh, well, I guess I could stay for a little bit because he has this furlough for being heroic, I guess. Like there's a sort of, the Council of Cloven Elders were impressed that he hadn't gotten himself killed and cleared away the way for future searchers. They wanted to grant him a 2-month furlough and a new set of reed pipes. The only bad news, Grover insisted on playing those pipes all afternoon long.
What was the song that it was playing, V? What is the magnificent song that he's playing with his reed pipes?
YMCA.
How I'm imagining it is kind of like my favorite videos are the ones where people sing things off tune. Like they do like the Jurassic Park theme, but like off tune, and it's just like it blows the brain. It's something like that. But the funny thing about it is that the strawberries are like freaking out. Like they don't. He's playing it so terribly that they want to commit like seppuku.
They're like disgusted by the music. Yeah. Yeah, so we find out what's going on with Grover, so why he isn't returning on his quest to find Pan. So there's explanation for that. Then
Percy wants to not dissolve the empathy link in case, Grover's in danger, so Percy can come to his rescue. But then again, there's the thing about if Grover dies or if Percy dies, either of them are going to be turned into a vegetable. Hopefully.
Well, not even a vegetable. I think they'll just be turned into a dead. Is what's gonna happen. Yeah, or like, I guess they go to the underworld or whatever happens to dead half-bloods. Or wait, did satyrs also go to the underworld? How does that work?
No, they like get reincarnated, like they turn into a flower or a piece of nature. So Grover's like, no matter what Grover does, he'll be okay.
Okay, that's true. That's not too sad, if you think about it. If they just turn into like a tree. Oh, well, that's kind of what happened to Thalia. Anyway.
Oh, so Grover's gonna come back. You know what? I can sum up this chapter, B. It's the beginning of Jurassic Park. They resurrect Thalia through magical means.
Yeah.
Same as like the mosquito and the dinosaur.
They do move in herds.
Oh my god, it's Thalia DNA.
And then she just like eats all of them, and Percy's like, clever girl.
Oh, actually, it turns out that she's part T-Rex, so when they resurrect her, she's now a T-Rex, and she's destroying everything.
Yep, we spared no
this chapter does open up on a dark and stormy night, pretty much.
Yeah, the description is that there's like this swirling storm happening around them, but then just like above Camp Half-Blood, it's being sort of rebounded by the magical barrier, which has been reinstated by the Golden Fleece. We mentioned the storm. There's some stuff that we learn about Merryweather Prep, about what's happening with Percy.
Oh yeah, my favorite part about this is it's called Percy Jackson doesn't get labeled as a domestic terrorist once again.
Yeah, once again, he narrowly escapes like another weird like misunderstanding where he's like a wanted criminal because everyone thinks he's some sort of horrible delinquent who blows up schools and has like gunfights with adults and whatever. Like, they think a lot of bad things happen.
I just like imagining, like, do you think that the FBI has like a file on Percy Jackson?
Yeah, probably.
It's like 3 feet thick because it's just like, well, we have this kid who was kidnapped. He tried to disarm a man with a baseball bat who had a gun. So mysteriously, the school that he was in exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does look suspicious. But yeah, then Chiron is just like, so anyway, I manipulated the mist.
Oh, don't forget the part about his stepfather mysteriously disappeared under mysterious circumstances.
Right. Like that, of all the things, that's like the most suspicious, but for some reason, no one ever questions him about that.
I just like imagine, this is what I thought of. If they go to like the MoMA, they go there and the statue of Gabe is there. And they're just like, nothing to see here. And like one of like Grover's like, hey Percy, doesn't that look like shut up, Grover?
He'd be like, shh, hey, can we keep it on the down low, yeah. Grover?
What, don't you want to say that you accidentally murdered your stepfather? No.
Accidentally. I think it was pretty intentional. That's like a straight up murder. Now that do we ever really think about how weird that is with Gabe? How like he's just straight up like killed. Like, he's turned into stone.
Well, I mean, he's a terrible person, but even terrible people don't deserve to die.
He is terrible, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I am just saying that's kind of dark if you really think about the implications. It's kind of funny that he ends up being a statue, but he is very much dead.
Well, it's like the idea of, it's the Sally Jackson thing of just like she puts on like the robe It's like, my husband has died under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, like that thread of birds that look like suspicious widows. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, I mean, equivalently, like Percy Jackson handed Sally Jackson a loaded gun. It's Sally Jackson's, idea if she's going to use it or not.
Yeah. Anyway, that's like a whole other side thing. But in this case, Percy gets exonerated for the weird thing that happened at Merryweather.
Yes, because Chiron used the mist to manipulate, to be like, oh, it was a boiler explosion, because schools still have boilers.
That's an interesting addition to the universe we're operating in, because we've talked a little bit about the mist, how it works. It's a little bit different than, say, other magical things where you have to manually go back and make people forget stuff, or like something like Men in Black, again, where you have to like press a button and make people forget. In this case, it's sort of inherently is the way that humans' brains work, sort of, where they can't really accept what they're seeing, so they see something else instead that makes more like mortal sense to them. And now we're learning that Chiron and others can manipulate it in some ways to fit the narrative that they want to tell. So that's something that I didn't realize until now. But that's probably going to be pretty important.
Well, I mean, we never knew that in the narrative because Chiron never informed the audience, so that's a thing that can actually happen. Chiron being able to manipulate the mist, and then he's eventually going to show Percy how to do it, is kind of like, again, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, and we kind of pointed out, I guess, like, obliviate or, like, wiping someone's brain is not a thing wizards do.
Right, which, again, is not something that wizards or whatever take lightly, which me and Sarah had she gave me a strong talking to about being like, oh, well, you could just obliviate people in Harry Potter. They don't just go around obliviating people for the most part.
I mean, I guess in Fantastic Beasts, they do a pretty good job of it.
That's true, but yeah, we don't count that.
We don't count that, but it's like, here it's a little different because now we literally have like a Deus Ex Machina. Oh no, Percy Jackson accidentally murdered somebody. It's like, I guess I can cover this up with the mist. Oh, he fell on a sword. Yeah. Or you have like that instance of like Percy Jackson can do like super crazy like magic now, or any other person, as long as they have the ability to control the mists. Which, I mean, mists, water, Percy Jackson, okay.
Oh, that's true. I never even thought of it that way. But I guess the implication is that Chiron can do it, so I guess other people can do it as well, like other beings.
I mean, Chiron's been alive for quite a long time. You'd think he'd pick up a few tricks. I mean, he probably hung out with, like, Elvis and Dean Martin.
That's true, but I'm just saying he's not like a water person. But yeah, so I guess you can manipulate the mist, which is an interesting, just little world-building factoid that I think is probably going to be important at some point, because if you can change what humans see, then... I mean, even Percy's affected by the mist, though, right? Because when he meets Tyson at first, he thinks he doesn't realize that he's a Cyclops because he just can't see, like, that he's actually one-eyed for some reason.
Well, it's also the idea, again, it's like Percy wasn't looking at it, so we have to be kind of, like, oblivious to, like, looking in the mist. Like, if you know what you're looking for, it's easy. That's why it's, like, the idea with, like, Grover, he has to, like, hide his legs, because how do you explain that to, like, someone that can actually see through the mist? Or even with, like, Chiron with, like, his magical wheelchair. Yes, I think Tyson kind of like manipulated the mist, but it's also the idea of, Percy wasn't quite looking for it.
Yeah, I kind of love this whole part about Merryweather because we do get the whole thing explained about the mist, about how they changed the story so that way Percy's not literally like a wanted, criminal for exploding a school, but he's still expelled. And then what Mr. Bonsai, the headmaster, has to say about why he can't go back is so hilarious. Can I just read the quote?
No, you know what the sad thing is, B? I went to like a hippy-dippy school like this before, and this is things people actually say.
Oh, I 100% believe you. I went to a hippy-dippy college. I understand.
Because he has like a bad karma or aura around him?
Yeah. Oh no, they've still expelled you. Your headmaster, Mr. Bonsai, said you had, how did he put it, ungroovy karma that disrupted the school's educational aura. But you're not in any legal trouble, which is a relief to your mother. Oh, and speaking of your mother, he unclipped his cell phone from his quiver and handed it to me. It's high time you called her. Can we just talk about how hilarious it is that Chiron has a cell phone clip? Like, of course he does. He's such a dad.
No, I'm thinking of like, okay, so he has a cell phone clip, and I guarantee he probably has like a fanny pack, but it's like only goes up to his waist. Or actually, no, B, his saddlebags are his fanny pack.
Yeah, it's right. It's the horse version of a fanny pack. It's the same thing. It's a horse fanny pack.
Let's take a minute to appreciate Chiron as ultimate dad vibes. Like, he has like a cell phone clip. He listens to Dean Martin. I guarantee you if he had like a bunch of like horse babies, he'd be spewing out some
Horse
like
babies.
fiery like dad puns.
I think those are called mares, right? Or foals, or I don't know.
You know, one of the dad jokes, he would name one of his kids John Mayer.
John Mayer. What would he? Okay, I get it. I was like, wait, what? I got it now. His name isn't Chiron Pony, though. Like, they don't have horse names. Like, they just have, like, punny horse names.
Well, I mean, it's nothing like Remus Lupin. Moon.
Yeah. So then at Chiron's prompting, Percy calls his mom, which is sort of like, it's such a weird thing when you have like an adventure story with a kid where they go through all of this wacky stuff. And they're very like independent, obviously. And that's probably partly why in a lot of kids' adventure stories, the parents are dead or otherwise indisposed, because then kids can go off and do their own thing. But in this case, his mom is still around and he has to like call her and be like, hey, so I know that I did something very dangerous. And you're like, oh, right, I guess he does have a human mother who's worried about him this whole time.
I love what she says. She's like, I'm going to try to do this as best as I can. What were you thinking? Do you have any idea how worried I was sneaking off to camp without permission, going on dangerous quests, and scaring me half to death, or worse, expelled?
Yeah, it's like definitely that level of like, Percy Jackson. I wish he had a middle name because totally she would say his middle name in that scenario.
I'm sure Percy has a middle name. What do you think it would be? It would be, watch, it's something like water-based.
Yeah, Percy
Hasselhoff Jackson. Did I ever tell? Okay, babe. Okay, this could be a small tangent. B, do you know that David Hasselhoff is the mayor of a small town in California, like less than 40 minutes from my house?
Yeah, I did know that, actually. I mean, okay, there's a town in California where a dog is mayor. You got all sorts of... it's no rules, just right in California. Anybody can be mayor. David Hasselhoff, a dog. There's no rules there.
Going back on track a little bit, the most important thing about it is that, you know, Percy's mom takes a breath and she's just like, oh, I'm just glad you're safe.
Yeah, which is the way about his mom, right? The way he describes her. He says, that's the great thing about my mom. She's no good at staying angry. She tries, but it just isn't in her nature, which is a really like sweet characterization of her, that she just really cares about Percy, which I'm glad that he has that kind of figure in his life, because again, his dad kind of sucks at being a dad because he's too busy being a god. So I'm glad that she's there to like really care about him.
Well, the most important thing about Sally Jackson is that something bad will happen, like he gets expelled, and her first response is, we'll just go to another district where hopefully they don't know about us. Like, she's gonna keep trying to do all these things, which to a parent, that's a very good thing, especially when your kid is destined to apparently save the world. Like, she's like super humble about it almost. Like, she knows everything about Percy, like the second he's been born. But all she cares about is well-being, like as an actual parent, rather than like, oh my god, get this demon child away from me.
Yeah, like she's not freaked out by him being a half-blood. She's just concerned because she wants him to be safe, which is really sweet. I
mean, isn't that the most thing about like most kids like that? Like, you would think like the Kents in Superman are the exact same way. They just want what's best for their baby, even though like he murders cities.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of think about that as far as like heroes go. Like if they have alive parents or parents that are in their like day-to-day life somehow, they have to worry about these kinds of things. And I mean, this conversation gets kind of serious that he has with his mom, where she says, he says, oh, I'm sorry, Mom, I won't scare you again. And then she says, don't promise me that, Percy. You know very well it will only get worse, which is like a good kind of heavier subject.
Sally Jackson's just like, Percy, don't BS me. I'm the queen of BSing.
Yeah, basically. Percy says, I wanted to say something to make her feel better, but I knew she was right. Being a half-blood, I would always be doing things that scared her. And as I got older, the dangers would just get greater, which is the worst nightmare of a parent, really.
We could easily just make a list right now of like all the crazy things Percy's done that my mom or your mom would probably have a heart attack doing, like jumping off a building, like going and stowing away on a ship.
Using a sword.
Oh, sword fighting.
That's like the most mundane stuff he does, is use a sword. Even when he's just at camp, he's out there like having chariot races, like almost dying.
Oh, going cross country. That's another one. My mom would never let me go cross country. Oh, well.
Except to see a stranger from the internet.
Yeah, just meet my strangers' friends on the internet. Except here you go to like a camp that's almost like a cult a little bit.
Yep.
And like y'all wear shirts and you're all assigned in cabins. Really, Percy Jackson could have just said, "Hey mom, I'm going to a Harry Potter camp." And things would have been fine.
Well, that would be sort of like, I mean, there is a Camp Half-Blood, as we did that interview of Camp Half-Blood, which is in the city, but if that camp existed, but then there were just real swords and stuff, like, you would never send your kid there.
Oh, and then there's like, we have some great counselors, like Tantalus, who ate all of his children.
Who's a cannibal. And then there's Dionysus, who would be an alcoholic if he wasn't banned from drinking wine. Like...
And it's weird because my friends are his illegitimate children.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, really, when you think about it.
If you think about it, like, the brochure for Camp Half-Blood must be like a real trip. You have fun. You play in our sports facilities. Hopefully your parent claims you.
Yeah. Or you'll just be here forever, sadly languishing away, as you learn how to do archery and nearly get murdered by mechanical birds.
Did I mention the Arts and Crafts Center?
Which will burn down to the ground.
But I'm kind of moving on a little bit more from this because we're getting to the big juicy part about this is we have one of the best interactions, which is Tyson and Percy are on the beach. It's almost the middle of the night.
This is very sweet. And it's like, God, there's just so much going on in this chapter. Like, all of a sudden, you think that things are going one way, and then you're like, oh, wait.
Oh, it's exactly like the ending of Return of the King. 12 endings.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like sudden things that you learn, and one of which is that, okay, so Percy, he's not a criminal anymore. He talks to his mom. They have a very serious talk about him being a demigod and what that means. And then he talks to Tyson and he realizes that Tyson is not going to be at camp anymore.
No, because Tyson gets a dream from Poseidon basically saying, hey, do you want to come work in the forges as an internship? Then you have, like, the realization that Percy's like, my dad never invited me to do things. It's like, but that's not the point.
Yeah, that's a little selfish, right? Like, oh, well, you get to do it and I can't.
Poseidon helps you all the time. Like, Tyson wouldn't be able to fit in, really. He'd have to be in the camp the entire time. It's almost better that he finds this trade, such as working in the forges and helping in this way.
Yeah, which is stuff that he already likes to do, and he wants to learn how to make things, and the whole point is he wants to create weapons so he can help Percy and the other campers, and so this is kind of his calling in a way, and then it's this, like, bittersweet moment of him knowing that he has to leave, but being sad about it, and especially because they're finally really connecting as siblings, quote-unquote, whatever, half-siblings, and this, like, whole conversation they have about how they're brothers is just very sweet and sad.
Well, I love it because it's one of those things where it's like a bittersweet goodbye, but it's not really a goodbye because, Tyson will always be in Percy's heart.
I actually really want to read this conversation because it's really sweet. Hard to leave my new brother, he said with a tremble in his voice, but I want to make things, weapons for the camp. You will need them. Unfortunately, I knew he was right. The Fleece hadn't solved all the camp's problems. Luke was still out there, gathering an army aboard the Princess Andromeda. Kronos was still reforming in his golden coffin. Eventually, we would have to fight them. You'll make the best weapons ever, I told Tyson. I held up my watch proudly. I bet they'll tell good time, too. Tyson sniffled. Brothers help each other. You're my brother, I said. No doubt about it.
My favorite part about it is that Tyson leaves, and Percy examines the shield, and it's an engraving of the whole adventure.
Oh, it's so sweet. He made, like, a craft. Like, it's so thoughtful. Like, he doesn't just make this amazing shield that also works as a watch, but it's, like, engraved with all of, like, the story of what happened that summer.
B, remember when I told you, this is a perfect time to drop this truth bomb, okay? Remember when I told you that this entire book is a joke?
Yeah.
Hey, B, you know what you just read?
What?
Have you ever read The Odyssey?
No. I haven't, actually.
Well, you have now. This is entirely The Odyssey. This is beat for beat The Odyssey. This entire story.
I didn't know that, because I didn't read The Odyssey.
If a kid has never read The Odyssey, Sea of Monsters is The Odyssey.
What do you mean by that? Like, so, because they fight Polyphemus? Is that part of the Odyssey?
I'll explain it a little bit, and then you're gonna start laughing, okay?
Okay.
This is the spark notes for The Odyssey. Odysseus loses favor of Poseidon, is forced to go on a voyage where he ends up meeting Hermes, where he's given a bag that releases winds.
Oh my god.
On the way there, he gets stranded on an island with the evil sorceress Circe, who turns people into pigs. Odysseus is able to fool Circe and trick her, and he's able to sail off again. Next thing that happens is he is stuck in the Sea of Monsters with Charybdis and Scylla, where he's able to get through, where they get stuck again through the island of the Sirens. And in the end, Odysseus is able to get to Polyphemus' island, where he's trapped again. This is all out of order, but pretty much this is all the things that are happening. This is just Spark
So
Notes.
it's literally just they took the Odyssey and crammed it into...
No, it's Spark Notes, where he meets Polyphemus. He's the one that blinds him, and he goes off, and this is where Odysseus gives Polyphemus his name, whereas in Sea of Monsters, Percy doesn't give him his name, thus, stranding him again, doing all these things. And in the end, you've just read The Odyssey.
Wow, he tricked you into learning.
Because I never bring up this entire time about infotainment a little bit, but yeah, this is a fun way to get kids to read The Odyssey. If you read it, it's a beat for beat, like in that order of The Odyssey, and I love it.
Yeah, and then the whole story is then told on the shield that Tyson gives him. Like, it's an entire recap of the different adventures that they went on.
Which is adorable, and I love that. And it makes me so happy that I can finally talk about it, because the first time I read that, it was like, wait a second, this is The Odyssey. Come to confirm, yeah, that's the whole point of this book, is the first book's kind of like the adventures of Perseus. This is supposed to be the adventures of Odysseus, and then so on and so forth.
So yeah, that was like a very sweet, serious conversation. And then it's weird, because then Tyson's like, I have to leave right now, immediately. Because...
I have to go. My planet needs me.
So that sort of happens all of a sudden. They have this conversation. And he's like, yeah, I gotta go literally now. And then he goes, I guess.
The one thing that I found that had a problem with this is it's kind of like the defense against the dark arts argument of having, you have Tyson leave now, which leaves the golden trio, because Grover's going to leave. That means it's only going to be Percy and Annabeth. But now you have the idea of, Thalia is going to be the next person on this adventure or something.
So there always has to be three.
There always has to be three or something. Because if you've noticed, the first one was Grover, Annabeth, and Percy. This one was Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson. So logically, the next one would possibly be
Percy, Annabeth, and Talia. Yeah. That makes sense, actually.
Because we've also had this theme of one person either has like a problem that's kind of like gets resolved through the entire situation. Like last one was Annabeth. And now maybe the next one has to deal with Percy having to trust Thalia or something along those lines.
Right, that makes a lot of sense, because they would have preconceived notions about each other. So it's sort of about them learning not to judge.
Yes, because it's always good to throw like that monkey wrench in, or if you have a new character. Like, even though I love Tyson, I think Tyson should always be there. It's like, I kind of appreciate the idea of a new character coming in with a new perspective. Kind of like teach the characters a better, I guess, lesson or a new personality or a new viewpoint on a certain matter, which I like.
Yeah, I love Tyson. He's really sweet, but it is going to be interesting to have a completely different character, because Talia, like, personality-wise and everything, is so opposite Tyson. She has all this baggage as well, built into, her dynamic with Annabeth, her dynamic with Luke.
Well, hopefully her baggage has wheels, like the kind you use to go to airports.
Right, because she even has built-in baggage with Percy, and she's never met him before, but it's just because of who her father is.
Well, it's also the idea of maybe it has to deal with, like, she's actually experienced what death is.
That's true. She's also died and come back to life, which is kind of a horrifying existential experience.
So we have to deal with that whole thing, unless it's like suspended animation. But even then, it's like Percy was also born. It's like, why didn't you die instead of me? It's like survivor's guilt almost. We have like a weird, wacky thing, but the most important thing is that in this chapter, you give Tyson the most important thing you can give to a character that isn't a human. You give him humanity.
Yeah. Well, he has like his own agency to go and pursue the thing that he cares about.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Which is important in a book because you have this thing. Tyson made this gift. He's thinking of other people. He appreciates now the little things in life. And now he gets to do this internship. And in the end, he becomes like human almost. It's like a very like Pinocchio effect.
Yeah. Well, he gets to be useful in a way that he has always wanted to be, sort of, because people were taking him for granted or not giving him enough credit for the things that he could do. So this is sort of inherently like, oh, I see that you are capable of these things. Here's your opportunity to go and work at these forges and create something because that's what you like to do and that's what you're good at, which is something that he deserves.
I mean, it's also the idea like Percy was kind of like jealous, but then he realizes it's like, oh my God, it's like a bird in a gilded cage almost. Like, if Tyson stayed here, he would never get anything done because he'd be forced to stay here.
Right. If he goes outside of the camp, then he's not safe. If he stays in camp, then he just doesn't fit in because he's not a half-blood.
So Poseidon gave him the one option that's the most important. Hey, come down to, I forget, was it called? I'm guessing it's Atlantis, right? I'm thinking of like...
I guess it is Atlantis. Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid logic here, even though it's probably the kingdom under the sea.
King Triton is there for some reason. A sassy crab singing a song.
So pretty much Poseidon lives in a castle under the water. What if it's like, I know it's like a gigantic coral castle. I'm just imagining like it's like a novelty like sand castle under the water that just doesn't.
I'm sort of imagining like those little weird illustrations that are on the side of like sea monkeys boxes.
Oh yeah. No, it's a gigantic sea monkey cage.
That's the plot twist, is his dad is a sea monkey.
Wait, that means Percy Jackson's part sea monkey.
Ew. Sea monkeys were kind of gross.
Well, all they are just like shrimp, right?
Brine shrimp. Yeah, they're just tiny shrimp.
I always wanted sea monkeys, but I feel like that'd be really sad, a sad existence.
No, they're kind of gross because they just sort of float there and they don't really do anything. It's kind of the most like icky.
Well, this is
pet.
The age, okay, babe, this is the age of pet rocks and sea monkeys. Like, you can't get any lamer.
At least sea monkeys are alive, technically, but...
What are you talking about? My pet rock is alive, B. My mom told me it's alive, and that it's also living on a farm now.
Yep, definitely. It's definitely not just chucked into the driveway.
I get letters from my pet rock every year.
Yeah. I think I never had alive sea monkeys, now that I think about it, because we, like, stirred them up, put them in the water... And then they just kind of floated there. I feel like they're supposed to move a little bit, but I think ours are just dead, so that's even sadder. They're just sort of like these dead, minuscule shrimp floating in some water.
And speaking of disasters, Percy decides to get some sleep, and he has the weirdest dream.
Here come the spooky dreams again.
He dreams about Tyson, and that Tyson has gone to the gigantic, like, sandcastle under the sea. And then he sees Poseidon. He looks like Jimmy Buffett with like khakis and like a Hawaiian shirt. Like, really, Poseidon in my brain is Jimmy Buffett.
Well, he has khakis and a sun-bleached t-shirt. He doesn't have a Hawaiian shirt. But yes, I do kind of picture Jimmy Buffett when I think of Poseidon.
What you don't see in that vision, B, is if you look to the right, there's actually a Margaritaville, or a fully functional Margaritaville. Like,
underneath the water.
Yeah, underneath
like,
the
we're
water.
Expanding.
Jimmy Buffett's like, what? Poseidon, you want a Margaritaville?
Have you ever been to Margaritaville? It sucks.
I've never been. There's one in Universal. I thought about it, but the only reason why I would go, B, was I'd want my friend to dress up as a pterodactyl so I can recreate the scene in Jurassic World where Jimmy Buffett runs away at the margaritas. But B, you know what the most important thing is? Is that there's now a Margaritaville retirement home.
Are you serious?
No, B, I'm totally lying. Yes, I'm being very serious.
I don't know. I thought you were just joking around. Because, like, either could be true. You could either be joking, or there literally could be a Margaritaville retirement home.
No, B, I'm not joking. There's a Margaritaville retirement home.
Is that where Jimmy Buffett lives?
Yep, Jimmy Buffett launches Margaritaville retirement home.
Okay, sure. I mean...
B, you know, it's called Latitude Margaritaville. So next week, guys, we're going to be doing a live episode from Latitude Margaritaville.
Where is it, Florida?
Yeah.
Well, all the old people are already there. Kind of makes sense.
All joking aside, because we're just being so sidetracked, is that Percy has this vision, and all he sees about his dad is he just says, brace yourself. And then there's like a bang at the door as it's a dark and stormy night. Ooh. But he also hears, before like the vision ends, he kind of hears Kronos talking about how, Percy didn't do a nice thing with like Polyphemus. Like he tricked him, much as like he's about to trick him.
Yeah, like the way that he phrases it is kind of interesting because he says, I heard Kronos taunting me from the depths of Tartarus. Polyphemus sits blindly in his cave, young hero, believing he has won a great victory. Are you any less deluded? The Titan's cold laughter filled the darkness.
Just as Polyphemus believed that he got a victory on nobody, nobody's going to get a victory on Percy Jackson. As there's like a big bang at the door, and Grover's like, Percy, girl, tree, no time to explain. We gotta go. And Percy like just has enough time to put on his shirt and pants, and like books it up to the hill where there's a bunch of other half-bloods. And B, do you want to read this description? Because I think this is very powerful for an ending.
Come on, I yelled to the others. What's wrong with you people? Let's get her to the big house. No one moved, not even Chiron. They were all too stunned. Then the girl took a shaky breath. She coughed and opened her eyes. Her irises were startlingly blue. Electric blue. The girl stared at me in bewilderment, shivering and wild eyes. Who? I'm Percy, I said. You're safe now. Strangest dream. It's okay. Dying. No, I assured her. You're okay. What's your name? That's when I knew, even before she said it. The girl's blue eyes stared into mine, and I understood what the Golden Fleece quest had been about. The poisoning of the tree, everything Kronos had done it to bring another chess piece into play, another chance to control the prophecy. Even Chiron, Annabeth, and Grover, who should have been celebrating this moment, were too shocked, thinking about what it might mean for the future, and as I was holding someone who was destined to be my best friend or possibly my worst enemy. I'm Talia, the girl said, daughter of Zeus. And that's how the whole book ends. You guys?
Yes. And it's like almost like in the back of your head, that's when you hear Poseidon say, brace yourself. Which, okay, I'm going to have like a little bit of a tangent right now about how this is how you should end a book. Almost like if you're going to have a series, you should either have it resolved or you should have a cliffhanger kind of like this, because it's important to have something where we haven't reached the lowest point yet. It's
like a good mix of both, though, right? Because they resolve some things, and some things are left unresolved, but not in a frustrating way.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like the idea of having, if you're going to resolve something small, but keep the big conflict, like, at a minimum. Either that or, like, having the idea of you fight the big bad at the end of this book, and it's like, what do we do now? It makes no sense. I'm going to look at Star Wars and how The Empire Strikes Back has a really great cliffhanger ending. It's just like, you find out that Darth Vader is Luke's dad, and Luke is missing an arm, and Han Solo has been captured, and he's going to places unknown. And all Luke and Leia do is look out at the stars.
It's in the middle of the series, so obviously there's going to be still like a, I guess, rising action to the larger conflict. Like, we're obviously not going to resolve everything, but at the same time, we're not left with like a bunch of questions that are frustrating. They answer a lot of the smaller things that they raise in this book, right? Like, they answer the thing about, okay, so Annabeth learns a thing or two about not being a jerk to Tyson. Same thing with Percy. He becomes closer to Tyson as well. He learns to not sort of like hog other people's like heroic quests so much with him interacting with Clarice. They do end up getting the fleece, but at a complicated cost that they don't realize. They save Grover. Like, there's a lot of positive things that happen, and you do feel the forward momentum of the story, but it's like a good balance. You feel the forward momentum, but nothing is like perfectly wrapped up either. There's just enough like left to make you want to read the next book.
So when it comes to like cliffhangers and having things like, yes, all the minor things got resolved, but what makes a good cliffhanger, makes you want to like run to the store and grab the next book, which this book does, is you have a sudden twist such as Talia appears and you don't know what's about to happen. Like, when you have a twist like that, that's so good. Same as with like, I don't even care if I spoil it because it's a meme. It's like in The Sixth Sense when you realize that Bruce Willis has been dead the entire time.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, it's, like it's what you would call the Shyamalan twist. Like you have something that's like so like out of left field. Like here, to a kid, like for us,
Yeah.
we know
This
kind of
isn't
like
even a
if you pick up
Shyamalan twist, though, and that's why it's good, I think, because it doesn't change the premise upon which you constructed your entire understanding of the story. It's just an added element that you weren't expecting.
It's the monkey wrench that you're looking for because you have like, oh, Percy Jackson's going to obviously be the titular person's going to have to make this prophecy, but all of a sudden you have like this twist, which is, wait, maybe he might not, or maybe something's going to happen, and you might have to have like, oh my God, Percy has to be frenemies with Talia. We're going to have these situations where you've now opened up a new, like, uncharted waters, I guess for lack of a better term for sea of monsters.
Uncharted waters.
Is, you have this thing now, which is very important to have in a book, because if you resolve everything, you kind of have to, like, backtrack. That's why one of the reasons why I hated Crimes of Grindelwald is the first movie resolves everything, and within the first 10 minutes, they have to undo everything. Like, oh, one of these characters that, lost his memory. Well, he learned everything again, like off screen. Well, Newt's not in trouble and all these things. It's like, well, you've already established all these things.
Yeah,
You've
why do that
resolved
off
them.
screen? It's just, why even have that as part of the plot?
Yeah, why would you have that as a plot? But here it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? That's the great thing when it comes to like a twist or having something, if you can use it effectively rather than, gunshot fade to black, which is the laziest twist you could possibly have.
Yeah, or even something like a Shyamalan twist, which is like something where you take the entire premise upon which like you were understanding the story and like turn it on its head, because that, yeah.
Oh, you mean like The Village?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of it, like most of his stories, like he thrives on the idea that that's like the best kind of twist is when it's something that like completely, it messes with your expectations. Like a twist here that would be Shyamalan-esque would be something like finding out that, like, I don't even know, that Percy was on Kronos' side the whole time or something. Like completely like not anything that you would have expected.
No, the twist would be that Percy's actually adopted and he's actually the son of Kronos.
Yeah. Or something like that.
It would be, that would be actually, I don't think that would be a lazy twist, but I still think it would just be like, oh.
Well, it wouldn't make sense because he wouldn't be a demigod then.
Yeah, you kind of marketed this thing as one thing, but then it's like, I'll give it a prime example. Like the two twists in Shyamalan's movies that I liked were actually The Sixth Sense and Split. All these other movies suck. Like Devil had such a great idea for a twist that, do you want me to ruin this movie a little bit and why I think?
I think I've seen it already.
So Devil's the movie where these people get into an elevator and it just stops and turns out the devil is there. Yeah. So you know what the best twist of that would have been?
What?
Is that all throughout the movie they're talking to an elevator operator. I think the twist should have been the elevator operator should have been the devil. And then they all are like paranoid and they kill each other. And the elevator operator who's been trying to help them the entire time he's the one that's like messing with them. I think that would have been the perfect twist.
But instead it's everybody loves Raymond's mom.
In like the grand scheme of things, I think this is a perfect example of a twist. This is very like textbook. This is what you should have. When other people do it, sometimes it's not that good. Like you'd have things that just go like left field or right field or whatever field in this baseball field.
Well, because a twist, like sometimes people think that a twist is good if it's so unexpected that it doesn't make sense, because you still have to lay the groundwork for a twist. Like the whole reason that the Talia thing is exciting and interesting is because they laid the groundwork.
So to a kid, it's shocking because you hear what Thalia is. And it's like, oh my God, this is going to be huge. This is going to be big because they've already established Annabeth was talking about the big three earlier in this book. And then you go through there and it's like, oh my God, there's now two of them. And that's like, oh my God, two of the biggest gods. You have Zeus and Poseidon. To us, it's like, oh, you pick up the context clues and you can understand the twist. It's like, oh, they keep bringing up Thalia. Something's going to be happening with Thalia. Except if it was like the twist was they put the golden fleece up and then all of a sudden like there's just an army of zombie demigods. Or actually, you know what would be a worse twist be? I'm going to give you an example. They have like the last chapter is, it's not from the perspective of Percy, but it's the perspective of like Hades. Like, I have sired a new son or daughter or whoever.
I thought that might be a twist that's coming up.
Oh, you thought that was going to be a twist?
Possibly, because it's just, I feel like it's waiting in the wings for him to have a child, but I don't know.
I mean, that it could be a possibility, but I'm just saying that's like, you have like the idea of like, in most shows, I'm going to give a prime example of this. In most shows, like, I guess where twists work, but also it kind of sucks. In Series of Unfortunate Events with like the Baudelaire parent twist, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, at the end of the first episode, you realize, oh,
yeah,
the Baudelaire parents are alive.
Oh, like if that was real, you mean? That would be a dumb twist. Yeah, I mean, it can get into tropey territory when you're taking a character and bringing them back to life. Like, oh, they're not dead after all, or whatever. But I think that the book earned it because there was so much build-up to it, and you learned so much about Talia, and you learned, like, oh, well, the Fleece can, like, bring things back that were about to die, so it doesn't contradict what we already know about the world. It's interesting, and it's not, like, I don't know, boring or something that it's like, oh, well, I guess she's back, amazing. Like, I wasn't super surprised, but I also wasn't like annoyed that it happened.
Well, I think the difference though is when you bring a character back to life, we've never actually seen Talia alive. Like, we've only heard people's like rumors and all these things about her. When you have a character that's been dead that you've actually followed, and then all of a sudden they come back to life and you're like, what the truck? And they act either completely different or like they're the same, and like there's no weight to it. Like, no characters learned anything. If I'm looking at like Lord of the Rings with Gandalf, from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, I mean, yeah, I love Gandalf, but like it's like one of those things that's like being, actually not even that. When Aslan dies in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and he's brought back to life.
A lion, Jesus. He's Lion Jesus, right?
Aslan's Jesus. He's an allegory for Jesus.
We all know that. Everyone knows that.
Hey, my friend gave me one of those like Mexican fleece blankets with a gigantic lion on it. We call the Aslan blanket that every Mexican household has. So I love it. It's so comfortable and so fleecy. But it's like the exact same thing. It's like, oh, when you have a character that's brought back to life, like the idea of like the weight of like, oh, they're dead. Oh, now they're alive. Like, oh, there's no stakes. It's the exact same thing of like killing Superman and then bringing him back. Oh, wait, that's happened several times. Or killing Batman. Oh, wait, that's happened too. Yeah, see, when you have a character like a godly character that's brought back to life, it becomes a problem. Because then you take out the suspense of what if someone dies.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the inherent thing about godly characters, though, and the universe that we're operating in is like, is anyone ever really dead?
Well, they're not, because they're spooky ghosts. We don't even know if Thalia's alive. What if she's like a vessel?
Right. Yeah, we don't know what's changed about her after having literally died and then been brought back to life.
She's just like, oh my god, are Polly Pockets still a thing?
Okay, wait, let's do the math here. When did Sea of Monsters come out? What year?
2006.
2006. How many years? And it's supposed to take place in 2006, right?
Okay, I've just did all the math right now, and by that I meant I looked at spoiler things. Is that she died in 2001 and she was 12.
Okay, so she died in 2001, and then when did she come back?
2006.
2006? So it's been a few years. A lot has happened.
So we have to assume that a lot has taken place between 2001, preferably after September 11th, 2001 was when she died, because this would be a major shock.
Yeah, because that would be like a really messed up thing to find out about when you wake up. Yeah, I was just thinking that, but then also like what else happened after? Like probably a lot of world stuff that I wouldn't have been paying too much attention to when I was 11 or 12, but wait, is she also the same age she was when she died?
Well, we don't know that, do we? Do you think that she's a 12-year-old?
Yeah, I'm like wondering, like, does she wake up and she's older now, or like what?
Or do you think she's slowly aging and she's actually like 15, about to turn 16?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, wouldn't that be plot convenient too?
Plot convenient if she got older, or plot convenient if she was the same age?
If she was the same age.
If she was the same age, yeah, because Percy's also around that age, so it makes sense for them to be closer.
Well, they'd both be about 12, and there's still a couple books left, so each book takes place for a year. Oh, man. There's still 3 books left?
There's a lot left still.
Oh, no. So, B, do you want to know what the name of the next chapter is in Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse?
I do.
So the name of the first chapter in Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse is My Rescue Operation Goes Very Wrong.
Ooh, rescue operation goes very wrong. Rescue whomst? I don't know who needs rescuing.
A lot could happen. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
They get crazier. I'm going to tell you right now, B. These chapter titles get crazier.
Oh, I'm sure. Who are they rescuing?
We'll find out next chapter, won't we?
Is something's gonna happen to Tyson?
We don't know.
I'm just talking to myself.
So what do you think is going to happen in the next book? Let's get that prediction out of the way. What do you think is going to be happening?
Oh, geez, I have no idea. I mean, there's a lot to reckon with. There's mainly just the Kronos thing, but that's like the main antagonist, so I don't think they're gonna like destroy Kronos and Luke by the next book, because that's like a lot of stuff to get done. Then there's 2 more books after that, so that doesn't make sense. They're obviously going to have conflict with those characters. They're going to have to obviously deal with Talia being back, and she's probably going to have all sorts of like weird baggage and adjustment stuff with having died, brought back to life. What is her dynamic with Luke? What is her dynamic with Annabeth? Whose side is she going to take in all this? What she's going to think about Percy because he's like a son of Poseidon. I have a feeling that they're probably not going to get along perfectly in the beginning, but I don't think that she's going to be his enemy. That's my guess. Yeah, I don't think she's going to murder him or anything, or try to. I'm excited to see what happens, because I honestly, as far as plot is concerned, I don't really know what's going to happen. I just know that Talia is involved somehow, and that something's going to happen with Kronos and Luke. But, like, outside of that, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Is Tyson going to come back at some point? Are we going to run into Grover? Is he going to run into trouble, and we're going to know about it because of the empathy link? Is Pan gonna show up and help them?
B, did we get any messages this week?
So we got an email that says, "Hi, B and Zack. You are almost through the 2nd book, and I just wanted to let you know I am still with you. You are the only podcast I listen to every week and have been listening to since April. A lot has happened for me this year. I just moved out of my parents' house to a flat near the university. My grandma died just before that, which came as a shock, and you really got my mood up and gave me something stable to look forward to every week. So thank you for that, and keep staying mortal. Penguin Helene. P.S. Will there be any kind of Christmas special?" I don't, like, what would our Christmas special be? I wonder.
I can think of several things we could do.
I mean, you don't even celebrate Christmas.
No, but I don't mind. I love Christmas specials. Well, maybe that's something that we could put on the books. We'll think about it. But thanks again for that wonderful message. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad that, we could bring some light into your day with, unfortunately, your grandma passing. But, we're all here for you.
I'm always, like, touched by messages like that because, I mean, I definitely feel that way about a lot of the podcasts I listen to. Like, if I'm having a difficult time, it's nice to just sort of hear people talk and you feel like you're around friends. And I hope that we provide that for people, and I really appreciate those messages a lot.
It means the world to us just because, sometimes we have bad days, and getting messages from you is the same equivalent of just having, hey, we do the show. It's a nice pep boost. It's a nice, like, symbiotic relationship, and thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Because, if I'm having a hard day, it's really nice to, like, hear from you guys, and it like, cheers me up and makes me feel really good that you're out there listening.
Yep. Other than, being able to hang out with my best friend, B.
That's true. That's another bonus, too, is hanging out with Zack and talking about weird stuff, like sea monkeys.
Oh, I love sea monkeys. You know what? Now I'm going to have to go out and donate all the sea monkeys. I'm going to throw them back into the ocean.
Yeah, and then they'll be immediately filter-feeded by some giant whale.
Hey, I said that I was helping. I didn't say I was going to help a lot.
It's like, once you're in the ocean, you're on your own.
Hello there. My name is Liv. I'm 22 years old, and I'm from Minnesota. Nowhere cool or tropical, sorry. Actually, Minnesota's kind of kick-ass. I love it. Going to the Mall of America.
I've never been to Minnesota. Oh, wait, yes. I think I've been to the Mall of America in Minnesota.
Minnesota is pretty much just deathly cold, and then you go to the Mall of America, or you go down to your basement and you play D&D. Liv, tell me if that's true or not. I found your show a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to catch up before sending an Iris message. Thank you so much for making this podcast. I've loved the Percy Jackson series since I was younger, and I've read most of the books in the extended universe, haven't got a chance to read Magnus Chase yet. These episodes have been so nice on my long bus ride to and from campus. I'm not a literature student, I'm an environmental science major, but I'm getting the view of two people that actually know things about books is truly interesting and lovely. To get to the more important point, I've been sick, on the mend now, so I haven't really been able to do much besides laying in bed and watching movies. So I went in and did it and watched the second Percy Jackson movie and made a document of the things it spoils. I've attached it to this email for you to look at, or not, if you don't want to. I looked at it. If there's like spoiler stuff, I can't send it to B until we've actually watched the movie.
Yeah, I can't say it. I'm not allowed. I am disallowed.
Sea of Monsters is my favorite book because it has my favorite chapter from the series. Thank you much for making such a great show. From Liv. P.S. I also love Taz, Mabim Bam, and Sawbones. The McElroys are what got me into podcasts. So your references are great, and I love them, so thanks for that. And please know that you don't go unappreciated.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, we were just talking about them earlier, but yeah, we just mentioned Sawbones on this episode. Hey McElroys. One of you get on here, talk about things. That's a very nice message. Liv also messaged me on Tumblr and hit some of the same points, so I'm just going to try to run through it quickly. But, yeah. Hi, B. My name is Liv, and I'm 22 and live in Minnesota. I just wanted to write you a quick message to say that I love Radio Camp Half-Blood, and thank you for making my bus rides to and from campus more enjoyable. It's so interesting to get the perspective of someone who has never read the books before, parentheses, since I have loved them since I was little, and a literature analysis, which as an environmental science major, I can't do. It's a new way for me to enjoy the books that's not just reading them, heart emoji. So, yeah, kind of a synopsis of the email that you sent, but thank you. That's really nice that you decide to message me and email us, because, you know, you're listening to the show and enjoying it, and that's all we can hope for.
Yeah, that makes like a wonderful world of difference when it comes to like sending a message, because, you know, like I said before, like it's raining today, like I've been like a little bit of a cold, and getting these messages is like warms my heart because I'm in a closet right now and it's cold. And you know what? If it wasn't for you guys, like, we wouldn't have had like crazy adventures this year with like going across the United States to meet B and do all these things that we thought were just like super cool. Like, I never thought we would be able to be doing half the stuff that we do, but it's all thanks to you guys.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I love doing this show. And we have some cool stuff in the works, hopefully getting some cool people on and talking about interesting things. So, you know, keep your ear to the ground.
We have some exciting things in the works. We didn't get any iTunes reviews this week, but we did get a winner for the Lightning Thief CD, and that goes to Liv. Yay! For the people that are winning, I'm going to be sending them all at the end of the month after the craziness of this, because I don't want any of those packages to be lost. So I'm going to wait until the end of the Christmas season so I can send them all out at once.
That makes sense.
And each one will be individually, like, I'll read them a bedtime story, and like I'll put them in a blanket, and it'll be a nice fun time. Speaking of a fun time, B, do you want to tell us what you got for your Secret Santa? Because mine came early this year.
It's not really a Secret Santa. It's more of a gift exchange, because it's not a secret.
Sorry, I hate to break it to you, B, but Santa uses Amazon now.
Yep. Cronkle. Okay, wait, I'm gonna see what it is. Wait, did you send like a note with it?
I'm sure I did.
Wait. What is it? Oh, that's cute. Oh, it's a dinosaur tea strainer is one of the things, which is adorable.
That's the Loch Ness Monster.
It says dinosaur, but okay. It's the Loch Ness Monster. It's the Loch Tea Monster. And then Ready Player One.
So that'll be coming this Christmas season. We're going to have to talk about Ready Player One.
I guess I have to read it now that it's been gifted to me. Wait, okay, that's everything, right? Did you send a little note? I want to see if you... Yeah. Hi, B. Thank you for being an amazing co-host and my best friend. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, look at that. That's adorable. Well, that's so sweet. Yeah, your gift is a-coming when I have all of my packaging stuff ready to go.
Oh, you mean when the elves are working overtime?
Yeah, when the elves are working overtime, and once we have our workshop in place.
You know, I thought it was really weird the first time I went to your house into your basement, and there's actually like a whole like factory facility, and I thought it was just like, oh, yeah. And then I had like meet all your friends, which were all the elves, the actual elves that work full time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have little hats and everything, and there's one guy who's just like, I realized I could kind of sound like the elf from Rudolph. Do you know the guy who's just like yelling at them when they're saying, "They're like, we're gonna do the song for Santa," like that guy. Got dolls that walk, talk, and run a temperature. We don't have any dolls with teeth. I can't wait to use this tea strainer. It's adorable. It's so cute. Little Loch Ness guy.
Where can they find you, B?
You can find me on Twitter at bkellygorman, and you can find me on Tumblr before it explodes at twinpoetry.tumblr.com.
And if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Suda41. That's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, it's at halfblood_radio. And if you want to email the show and have a chance to win a Lightning Thief CD, which as of this recording, they are now rehearsing for the gigantic national tour of the Lightning Thief musical, you can email us at radiocamphhalfblood@gmail.com. We also have t-shirts available at TeePublic. All you got to do is just type in Radio Camp Half-Blood, and you'll be able to get some cool shirts, stickers, and everything in between. Well, I'm Zack.
I'm B.
And keep staying mortal. Bye!